welcome everybody to the Accelerativ Thrust podcast. I mean, I really have nothing else to say at the moment.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. We're here for you.
Yeah, we're gonna review some records like usual, and we're gonna talk about Sam Lockward's new record at the end of the show
With the amazing Mike Watt.
Yeah, with Mike Watt. I mean, we're not talking with Mike Watt.
No.
Sam made a record with Mike Watt. Yeah.
Yes, and
right.
that blows my mind. I'm a huge Minutemen fan.
Yeah.
And so, how much are you into the Minutemen, Eric?
I like them.
Okay.
I do. I like them, and I like a number of songs. It's just that I have an aversion to syncopation sometimes. Like funky things, and
sure.
And so sometimes I don't get as into funky things. But when the Minutemen get a little less funky, then I'm way into it. Like way into it. So it's kind of a I like a lot of what they do and I don't like some of what they do. So,
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was gonna say that not everything that Minutemen does is funky. Like their earlier stuff. Well, particularly probably my favorite album from them is an EP called Buzz Howl or Under the Influence. That one got a little chunky. Like I mean, yeah, that one got almost like not metal, but like Mike Watt's bass playing was not as funky on that record, I would say, as say Double Nickels on the Dime, which sort of seems to be the one that everyone knows.
Pretty funky.
Yeah, really funky. I mean,
yeah,
you can hear where probably Flea and Les Claypool were listening to a lot of Mike Watt. I bet.
I can see that.
I mean, who knows? But yeah, man. I've always really liked him. One of the things that I've always liked about the Minutemen is how their songs sometimes didn't really seem like songs, but just like little bursts of like little tantrum bursts or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really interesting, like almost like little pieces of poetry or something.
Yeah, those are usually the ones that I like, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're kind of a weird anomaly because for them to have existed in the punk rock scene of that era, no other band that would have, I feel like no other band really did so like the Minutemen.
No, I think that they were completely original within that scene and movement and with those other bands. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple bands that experimented, I think, with some elements of it, but not in the same way. So,
yeah, absolutely. Did you watch the documentary, the We Jam Econo, the story of the Minutemen?
I think I did. It came out a while ago, though, right?
Yeah,
a few years.
Yeah, I'd say probably 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it was an excellent documentary. Mike Watt seems like the coolest old dude.
Yeah.
Just like when he seems like my dad, if my dad was like, like a socialist or something. I mean, I know that sounds like a really lame description, but I can't think of any other way to put it. Like that's the lamest way to like describe Mike Watt. But I'm not going to apologize for it. I mean, I've just decided I'm never going to apologize again for anything I do.
Why would you?
Exactly.
What does it get you?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't change anything. No one ever forgives anyone. Are you serious? Come on, man.
It's a bunch of laughs.
Yeah.
Sometimes even a smack in the face. I mean, what do I get out of apology? Like, really,
Nothing.
Truly. Exactly. But yeah, the Minutemen is great. Also, I wanted to talk real quick about something we talked about previously. I finally watched the second Twin Peaks series.
Oh, The Return. Yeah.
The Return, yes. And I got to say, I know that I'm totally outdating myself because that was 3 years ago. That was so 2017.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry, I haven't seen it until now.
Yeah.
And I got to say that I like it just as good as the original series.
Yeah.
I do.
I can see that. Yeah.
I really like it. I think that it was one of the best returns, one of the best series that returned from the 90s.
I think that depending on what you liked about Twin Peaks, you will either really like it or probably really not like it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it has quirky characters, I guess, but they're not quirky fun anymore. They're like quirky bad.
Yeah, there's
you know?
except for the characters that actually are in Twin Peaks, like the sheriff's office, like those characters. Mm-hmm. They're still. I mean, they get kind of dark later, but they kind of retain like that one. What's his name? Andy, I think it is.
Yeah.
Which I have a theory about Andy. I think that he was based on like Barney from Andy Griffith.
Yeah, Barney Fife. I can see that.
I think he was inspired by Barney Fife. Mm-hmm. Also, Gordon, David Lynch's character, he still was hilarious through the whole thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I love that one part where he's talking. I don't remember who he was talking to, but I think it was Diane he was talking to about something, and maybe you recall this, Eric, but he was like, he said like, somebody is a daughter of somebody who I know who is missing. And I told her, and they live on a turnip farm. And I told them that one day she'll probably turn up. Like, do you remember that?
I don't know.
just these little silly things that, David Lynch is just throwing in just to fuck with us, like that's what
sure.
David Lynch does.
Yeah. Well, there's so many moments of that too. And that's what I mean about like, if you like when it first started, I was just like, okay, this is Twin Peaks, but we're starting in, I think it starts in New York, right? And then it goes to Las Vegas, and then it's like North Dakota, I think, or whatever. And it's just like, what the hell are we ever going to get back to Twin Peaks? And it takes a while, but
yeah,
I think they did that on purpose, like to show us that this story isn't about Twin Peaks,
right?
And
right.
I don't really think I know what it's about, but I know that it's bigger than Twin Peaks as they present it, So I think that was part of it. But yeah, it's like, I think it's really a lot of fun. I mean, if you're a Twin Peaks fan and you've spent the last 25 years theorizing about what everything means and whatever else, this is going to be super gratifying in one way, because it's just 18 more hours of mystery. But you're not really going to get any answers. I mean, I think you can make up answers that you're getting, but nothing definitive. I don't think they ever come out and say, this is what was happening,
Yeah,
or even this is what's happening. So I don't know. It's a lot of red herrings, and it's more of an exploration of, it's like variations on a theme sort of idea. I think it's not like this is Twin Peaks and these are these characters. It's like these are like little vignettes based on the atmosphere and some of the ideas of Twin Peaks, and the characters might show up, but are they really the same characters? Is this even the same timeline or world or reality? Or, it's just like, it's pretty, I don't know the right word, inconclusive I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Kind of like, if you're looking for answers, I don't even know if I'd watch it. But if you just want more interesting exploration of some of these ideas from Twin Peaks, then yeah, it's pretty cool. So I don't know. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I also think maybe there's an element of, like when a lot of musicians are asked about their lyrics and their response is that we prefer to have them open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's an element of that with David Lynch's directing and sort of like the way that he, writes the concepts of Twin Peaks.
For sure.
Because I can't think of any other... Because like what you were saying, you can make up your own conclusions. And like the whole thing with... that I found pretty just hilarious about the series was how most... not all of them, but most of the episodes concluded at the Bang Bang Bar.
Oh, yeah, at the Roadhouse.
Just like some random, like, band playing live. Like,
oh, yeah.
And it's like this small town where, like, Nine Inch Nails just happens to be playing at this bar.
The Nine Inch Nails.
The Nine Inch Nails.
Right, yeah.
And then you have Eddie Vedder as, like, some
but it's
other
like
guy.
his real name.
Oh, is that his real name?
Yeah.
Like
yeah, they use his real name.
Eddie Vedder's not his real name.
No.
I didn't know that.
I don't remember what his name is. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But so they used his real name, like in
Edward Louis Severson the Third.
Yeah, Edward Louis. So why did he call himself Eddie? Why is he calling himself Eddie Vedder as the stage name? I wonder.
I don't know.
That's
the 90s.
Weird. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Edward Louis Severson the Third sounds way cooler to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, or exactly. Eddie 3. I mean, shit.
Eddie 3. Well, there's got to be an Eddie 2 because Eddie 1 is the Iron Maiden monster.
Yeah, Eddie
obviously.
2 is Killers.
Oh, yeah, okay. Eddie 2 is Killers. Yeah. And then Eddie 3 is Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. Now, for some odd reason, I'd like to see like Iron Maiden records with like Eddie Vedder in place of like Eddie.
Yeah.
On the
Well, Eddie 3 is Number of the Beast.
Okay, so
we should just call all Iron Maiden records Eddie 1, Eddie 2, Eddie 3.
Yeah. So they're up to like what, Eddie 15?
I don't even know.
So, well, and it's true because Eddie does look different on every single cover.
Oh man, what's your favorite Eddie if you had to choose?
Oh man, boy, that's a very difficult one. It's somewhere between the Cyber Eddie on Somewhere in Time, and I don't care for the album that much, but I really like the cover of No Prayer for the Dying.
Is that? Oh yeah.
That's the one where he's like,
oh, he's busting through a wall.
Yeah, he's busting through a wall.
A door.
I really like that one, and then I would have to say Seventh Son of Seventh Son.
Pretty good.
And then I would have to say Killers. Well, actually, both of the Paul Di'Anno albums, I love both of those covers.
Yeah, the Iron Maiden one, he looks almost more like a crack addict than...
Yeah, he really does.
Than like a zombie. I don't know what Eddie's considered. Is he... I mean, he's he has to be some sort of reanimated corpse, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. I think IDW or some comic company did an Iron Maiden comic recently.
Oh, dang.
And Eddie is actually like a character in it with like, he's actually talking and everything. Maybe in there they explain what Eddie is.
Eddie's his origin story. I mean, his fictional origin story. We all know his real origin story. But
yeah, he was the a crack addict.
No, they had a banner, right, that they hung behind the band, and it had this face on it that they like carved or something.
Yes. Yep.
And they just called it the Head, and so because they're English, it was the Ed, and then they just went with Eddie.
Oh, okay. Now I didn't know the part about the Head, and they called it the Ed.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy. So Eddie,
I think my
clever.
My favorite. Oh shit! I think my favorite Eddie was the cover of the Purgatory single, because when I was a kid, I had a friend named Joe, and I'm not gonna have last names or whatever, but we would sit in his room and be juvenile delinquents or whatever, and he had the poster of Iron Maiden Purgatory, and half of it is the devil from the Number of the Beast's face, and then the other half is Eddie's face, and it's like cracking apart, and something about the eyes on the devil part of it scare me to death. Even to this day, I love it.
Wow.
I really like the Live After Death Eddie too, coming out of the grave with lightning in his head.
That one is fun. Yeah, that one's
so good.
I mean, all of the Iron Maiden covers from the 80s, like Egyptian Eddie on Power Slave.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful
amazing.
cover.
Yeah, I mean the entire catalog. Number of the Beast Eddie's awesome too. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can't.
I like Peace of Mind Eddie. He seems like really pretty out of control on that one.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, he's like breaking chains and stuff. But when does he not seem out of control, really? I mean,
when's he just mellow? I actually think the Seventh Son, even though it's a really cool cover, I think it doesn't have very much action. It's like a very still kind of picture. And Somewhere in Time too, kind of.
Yeah, Somewhere in Time he's just kind of standing still, and it looks like he's like almost like a hero getting ready to fight a battle or something.
Have you seen the Stranger in a Strange Land single from Somewhere in Time?
Yes, I have.
That's really
awesome.
cool.
Where he's like wearing like a trench coat.
A duster and shit. Yeah, and he's like walking into a space bar, right?
Yes.
A space bar, like on your keyboard.
Like, I like that term, space bar. You know that Somewhere in Time was inspired by Blade Runner, right?
Oh no.
That entire record. That's actually my favorite. That might be my favorite Maiden album.
It's really good. It has Wasted Years on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, Wasted Years.
Such a good song.
Alone, Wasted Years, but it's either that, and this is going to sound strange to people, but it's either that or one of the two Paul Di'Anno records for me. I love both of those records.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will be like, oh, no way, you got to pick a Bruce record as your favorite. And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, Bruce, in terms of what he brought to the table, I mean, I don't think Iron Maiden would be the band today, maybe, if they hadn't had Bruce start singing with them on Number of the Beast.
And they knew that, and that's why they got him.
Exactly, but Paul Di'Anno was perfect for those first two records in such a way that I don't think Bruce Dickinson could have done those records justice that way.
No, they had a lot of energy.
Yeah. And his vocals were a lot different than Bruce's.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's also an underappreciated vocalist. I think he was just as good as Dickinson, but he was just different.
In a different way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. In a different way. And he actually does. Not so much on those Maiden records, but I've heard some of his stuff that he's done in later bands.
Oh yeah.
And he actually can reach those high notes. I mean, not to a Bruce Dickinson level, but
right.
I love Killers. Like Killers is just
me too. Murders in the Rue Morgue is probably my second favorite Maiden song. So it's. I don't know though. Actually, now that we're actually in this conversation, like I was just fucking around talking about Eddie,
right?
But now that we're actually here, I have a lot that I could talk about. I love Number of the Beast.
You know what we should do? You know what we should do?
What's that?
We should do an episode where we do personal rankings of Iron Maiden records.
Okay, I'm into it.
I'm not kidding.
So we just do 4 Maiden records. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah. Let's do that.
All right, we'll plan for it in the future.
Or we can even do it next week.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll be ready by then.
You don't know if you'll be ready.
I got to go through the whole discography.
All right. So I know what your favorites are going to be. Your favorites are going to be the X Factor.
Oh no.
Virtual 11.
Absolutely.
Dance of Death. Have you seen the cover of Dance of Death?
No, I've never heard Dance of Death. Is it pretty good?
I mean, in my opinion, I think
that cover. It looks like a Resonance cover.
Oh, it kind of does actually. It's not very fitting for a Iron Maiden record.
Well, it just
though.
looks like kind of crappy late 90s CGI. Like it
Yeah.
looks just like Bad Day at the Midway.
That's exactly what it looks like, and it came out in 2003.
Oh, wow.
And so they were like dated on that. And there's a couple of good songs on there. There's a couple of good songs, but man, I actually think that record is the worst Maiden record ever released.
I can't wait to hear it.
Even worse than the Blaze Bayley records, which actually, the Blaze Bayley records had a couple of good songs on them too, I think. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, let's do an Iron Maiden episode.
We will
later in the future.
Let's cut this conversation off so we don't.
Let's do
all
that.
of our
Fans,
Maiden fodder.
listeners, you have our word. There is an Iron Maiden episode that's going to be coming up at some point.
So be sure to skip that one. If you hate Iron Maiden, this is not for you.
We're going to be doing the worst Iron Maiden records.
Yeah. You remember in the 90s when that was like an actual advertising style? Like telling people not to get into your product? Like, if you can't handle Mr. Pibb, then get the fuck out. You know, like.
Wait, hold on. Was
no,
that
I made that up,
Okay.
but you know what I'm saying. Like you can't handle the extreme gushers. Like, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I do remember that. Yeah, now that you mention it, the gushers thing I do remember. But like, and also like Warheads. Remember Warheads?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're good.
But like, Mr. Pibb. There was something about Mr. Pibb that you said that blew mine and John Burns' mind.
Put it in your head. Yeah.
Yeah, put it in your head. Okay, all right. I think it would have been great if they actually would have been like, put it in your head or get the fuck out.
If you can't put it in your head, you're a. I don't even. What would be a thing they would say in the 90s?
I don't know. Put it in your head or get out. I guess. I don't know. Yeah, no, I do remember that. And also, do you remember the, like in the late 90s, all those Cash Money and like No Limit like records? Mm-hmm. Do you remember like, you know what I'm talking about? Like Juvenile and Master P. And
I mean, on
guys?
a cursory level, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you were aware of them at least.
Yeah,
right?
I knew they existed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, did you ever see any of their advertisements? They did
No.
TV commercials.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, it was just so funny. It's like, if you like tough lyrics and blah, 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 you know, it was just like yelling. It's like, Master P and No Limit, you know, and like, I always thought that like, it would be funny if like emo rap did that,
Shit.
but they did it in like the style that they do the rapping in.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
You know, so it's like, if you like the, you know, I can't even do it. But you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
It sounds like they're drinking codeine or something all the time. Because they probably are, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the youth is
Try
into
the new
these
Mr.
days.
Pibb scissor up.
Mr. Pibb scissor up.
Put it in your head and then put your head on a pillow.
That sounds like a really cool punk song, though. Put it in your head. Put it in your head. So.
Oh man, I'm kind of. I don't know. This Mr. Pibb with codeine fucking actually is kind of doing it for me.
It's like
I'm gonna try to figure out how to make that happen.
It's hitting all the right spots, huh?
Yep. I'm gonna figure that one out.
There we go.
If anyone out there, well, no, I'm just kidding.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
All right.
we got some records that we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, let's
and,
do the damn thing.
If you can't handle the records, then get out.
You may not be able to handle these records actually this week.
Yeah,
I think we're pushing some boundaries, guys. Get ready.
We are. There's some stuff. There's some stuff on these.
Stepping
ones.
out.
Yes, we're step into a world. Anyway, so I'm first.
Yep.
Huh?
Hit it.
Okay, so the one that I'm going to talk about first is from this band called Boris, which I think there's probably, I don't know, I would suspect that a lot of our listeners probably know who Boris is.
I would think.
But if you don't know who Boris is, they're a Japanese band that really has done just about every style of heavy music you can imagine at this point. I mean, they've dabbled in noise, avant-garde, experimental stuff. They've done stoner rock. They've done drone. They've done punk. They've done grunge. They even have an album that I think sounds kind of like the Deftones. Even like almost like, I don't know, like atmospheric emo indie type stuff they've done. They've done collaborations with like Merzbow. They've toured with Nine Inch Nails. Obviously, they're influenced by the Melvins because the band, I think, and I've read this, is named after the first track off the Bullhead album. And so that when they first started out, though, they kind of, for the most part, leaned more towards the sludge metal realm. And so this record is called Amplifier Worship. And it's 5 tracks of just pure, in-your-face, heavy doom. That's the best way I can describe it. And it's just, I mean, I don't think any of the tracks are less than 7.5 minutes long. And in fact, 3 of them are over 10 minutes long. And it just is a punishing record that if you like stuff like Neurosis and Isis and Melvins and you know, Sun, all of that stuff, I think that you'll dig. There's just, it's just a really well done, like, doomy metal album, in my opinion. I really like, I mean, it's kind of, it's very repetitive in parts. I mean, the same riff repeats over and over again for the first, like, 5 or 6 minutes at least of the first track. But, I mean, what else would you expect from, you know, a lot of good doom records do that, and they build upon that intensity as it keeps going. The second track, however, which is, I believe, let me look this up here real quick. It is, and I can't, like, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this song title wrong, but Ganbu Ki, that's the best I can do. It's 16 minutes long, and that's the second track. And after 5 minutes of just pure in-your-face doomy noise, it then goes into this, like, really weird jam, like this psychedelic trippy jam for literally like 10 minutes. And there's even a part where it stops and it's silent with, I think maybe you hear like a little bit of just picking going on like one of the higher strings on the guitar. And then it just goes right back into it. Like, it's almost like this, it's like the best way that I can describe it is like dark psychedelic funk or something. And it's so cool. It's like, it's honestly like, this is going to sound really weird, but it's one of the reasons why I really got into this record was that specific part. And I would have been into it anyway, because I really like the rest of the record, which isn't, I mean, there's really no other surprises like that on the rest of the record, because the rest of it is just straight up, you know, just doom metal basically. But when I heard that, I just, for some reason, my jaw just dropped. I was just like, this is incredible. And it says something. I think I've expressed this on the show before. I'm not exactly a fan of this kind of music all the time. And for this record to really like just strike me in this way, it's kind of an anomaly as far as you know, my personal taste, because normally I don't listen to this kind of stuff, but for some reason this record just hit the right notes with this style of music. And the thing that I really like about the band Boris is that they're like a chameleon. They change a lot. I mean, they still stay within the confines of, basically metal, punk, what have you. But they're always experimenting with stuff. And I love this record. Erik, what do you think of it?
Yeah. So, believe it or not, I haven't listened to a ton of Boris. I listened to Pink because I think that was a really popular album. And I liked it. And I listened to Kuma no Uda. And the reason I listened to that one is because the cover is a parody of a Nick Drake record. Brighter Later, which is a beautiful record. So I was like, well, maybe this is Boris's beautiful record. And to be honest, I don't remember much about either of the records. I listened through them one time. So
sure.
Even though Boris butts up against a lot of things that I would listen to, for some reason I didn't spend a lot of time on them. And so what I expected from this record is not exactly what I got, which is awesome. You know, there is a lot of heavy guitar feedback. There's a lot of held out notes for a long time. I mean, it is in essence a doom record, and that's great. But there's a ton of other elements there too, especially rhythmic elements. And yeah, like honestly, what it reminded me most of was some of the heavier, later sort of Hawkwind. I don't know if you listen to much Hawkwind.
Oh, but interesting.
Yeah, like especially the Do Re Mi record, and the Space Ritual, which I think is the live one. A lot of especially that second track that you talked about when it goes into that break.
Yeah.
Just the motoric sort of rhythm, you know, it was just kind of it really reminded me a lot of Hawkwind, crowdier psych stuff, you know, which I really did not expect. And it went a lot of different places as the record went on. A lot of different elements of sound, a lot of different types of vocal performances. Really listenable and enjoyable in my mind. Like when I saw that you picked Boris, I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, we'll just listen to, 40 minutes of 4 songs, and it'll just be doom. And
right.
And if we're lucky, it might veer into stoner slightly and have a bit of a groove every once in a while. But instead, this really did a lot of different things. It really did. And it wasn't just, it's like, it wasn't just like Dope Smoker stuff. And I mean the song, not the person or people. Right. But it wasn't just relying on this idea of what heavy means or whatever. Like it, I always say that when it comes to stoner and doom stuff, is like the thing that most of them miss when they're trying to act like Black Sabbath is they miss the swing. They miss what made those songs, what made them have very variables and different elements. It wasn't just like the break of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath over and over and over again forever, And so I think that Boris kind of explored some of that. I think that there were some different rhythms and different ideas explored. So I'm glad you picked it. I really ended up liking it when I kind of didn't think that I was going to. So
awesome, man.
Yeah, I liked it. And I'll probably go back and listen to more of their stuff after this. I kind of stayed away from it. And I've talked about that before, how what you think a band is can keep you from experiencing what they are.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
That happened for sure with Boris and me. So,
yep. And you mentioned Hawkwind, and that's an interesting comparison. I've listened to a little bit of Hawkwind, but I have not fully immersed myself in the world of Hawkwind. I know that they, it seems like they're a very interesting band from that time period, and I mean, they're still around, aren't they?
That I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not
but
sure.
I know that they a lot of their themes dealt with like space and things like that.
Yeah.
And I assume they probably used a lot of synthesizers and stuff, like in some of their music.
Some, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yes, they did. But more so, I think they were just like kind of a. I think they put the rock in krautrock. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like
okay.
they really
gotcha.
do kind of play rock music, and I think that sort of changed over time. I would say that in the beginning, like I said, especially there's a record called Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do. It's spelled like 3 different words. For me, that one hits. Like that's the one where I'm just like, this is super cool. And then they get a little more into maybe like mountain territory or something like that.
Okay.
And then ultimately get into sort of some Yes territory, especially after Lemmy leaves the band.
So kind of prog-ish.
Yeah, and so I'm sure there's tons of synthesizers and stuff in the later stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think they still are making music. How many of the original members are in that? I don't know. How much of it's re-releases and things, I don't know either. So, but I would say there's definitely a time where I stopped listening to them.
Sure.
And so I'm not an expert by any means. So
sure. Yeah, I'm gonna need to listen to some of that stuff. Is there a particular? I mean, you mentioned a couple out. Is there any particular place where you recommend to start?
I would start with the first 3 records personally.
Okay.
And then
now
the live one too is super good. I think it's called Space Ritual, if I'm not
okay.
mistaken.
I think you're right because I've seen that. I've definitely searched for them.
Yeah.
Is Lemmy on those first 3 records then?
Shoot, that's a tough one.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when Lemmy left. I always just figured he was in Hawkwind until Motorhead started up.
Okay.
So I just kind of based it on that idea, that
okay.
it was probably the first few records. So
I'll have to dig into it, man. I'll have to dig into it.
And if I'm wrong, please send us a message. I would love to hear from anyone ever about this show. Like
interact with us.
Even if it's to tell me I'm an idiot.
Yes.
Yeah.
let us know if we're wrong.
Yeah, please. And then we'll correct ourselves because I can't live with the shame of being wrong.
Yeah, the shame of being wrong. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Podcast episode title locked in.
Duh.
The shame of being wrong.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I like it. I like it. I don't know about how you feel about it.
Oh, I don't. Whatever you name the episodes is your business. I leave it in your hands.
Well,
I
you're
trust
part
you,
of this
is
show
what I'm
too,
saying.
Eric.
I'm saying I trust your opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're part of this show too. If
Nah, you're good at it. I would just be not good at it. So, yeah.
That's debatable. But, thank you very much, Eric. That was very sweet. That was very kind. We're having a Kodak moment on air.
Cute. All right. Should I go with a pick here?
I believe you should.
I don't know which one to do. I know I'm not Hollywooding, by the way. That's a poker term when you're pretending to not know if you're going to place a bet or not. But that's not what I'm doing here. I'm really deciding which way to go. Let's go with Crack Cloud.
Yes.
Crack Cloud. The record is called
Cloud.
Pain Olympics, and it came out in 2020. So this is a sort of a little behind the scenes thing that no one ever asked about. But I pick my records based on just if someone tells me about it, if I just happen to find it by the recommended if you like or whatever on Spotify, whatever. Usually I pick it and then I listen to it to make, to decide if I want to talk about it. And then as we kind of close in on the time that we're going to do the podcast, I actually then research the band just so I can have an idea of what I'm talking about a little bit. But the reason I mentioned that is that both of my picks this week ended up being kind of interesting. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say that because not all the time when I look into the bands is it interesting. It's like, these dudes are from Detroit, you know, like, wow, okay.
Right.
But, yeah, so anyway, with that said, Crack Cloud is from Vancouver, and they are a collective, and they have many, many members. Like, I don't even think they're all credited on the record. They probably don't even all perform on the record because some of them do art, some of them do dance, some of them do spoken word or whatever. But what brought them together is that they are all recovering addicts. They all live in an area of Vancouver called Downtown Eastside, and I went through this area when I was in Vancouver, and no joke. I mean, obviously it's not a joke because it's super serious. It was the scariest place I've ever been, like in my life.
Wow.
It looked like a bomb went off, and there were just bodies strewn on the street everywhere you looked. Like people were just passed out in the middle of the street, hunched over, throwing up, just 100 people in this like one corner where 2 blocks came together. Just on each corner were probably 20 people, either going through withdrawal or just on drugs, and it was really scary. And so anyway, turns out that these people come from that area, and they actually have a house in that area, and it's sort of like a recovery house, and they use music, and they use this project to sort of support themselves, not financially, maybe financially a little bit, but also, I mean, just as a support system. And so I think that's really cool. And I didn't know anything about that. So when I picked it, but yeah, so they're all recovering addicts. The music itself is really, really cool. And I'm just going to name off some things that it reminds me of, because then it will sort of help me expound upon those ideas. So I think there's a huge electric light orchestra influence on this. It moves. It has a lot of vocals and strings and brass and things that come in. I think the way the songs move are very ELO. Super Devo in a lot of places, like very much so. The main vocalist, I think, sounds a lot like Mick Jones, and so like Big Audio Dynamite and some Clash stuff. I think that if you like that vocal style, then that's what he sounds like to me. Maybe that mixed with it's like a little lispier and maybe a little more German than English. I don't know. It's hard to place his voice, but it's super enjoyable. And it also sounds like maybe Godspeed and Polyphonic Spree in some moments. And I think, honestly, that might come from the collective element of this. I feel like bands, when they have like, and I sort of can speak from experience here, if you have 12 to 15 people in your band and you decide to have them all hit at the exact same moment doing the same thing, where they were all meandering before and they all come together, it can be really powerful. And I think that, honestly, I just feel like it comes from having so many people that if you point them in a direction, it's going to have some impact. And so that element comes through to me. And it does have sort of a post-rock element to it, and it has sort of a post-punk element to it, too. It's like, I mean, Tuxedo Moon and things like that, I think, could fit right in there as well. So, anyway, it's upbeat, but it's also dealing with some heavy stuff, you know, like about the recovery elements of it. There's a lot of vocal samples of people who are going through things, and they're willing to talk about it. I think it has really beautiful and interesting arrangements, atmospheric interludes. Yeah, I just think it's a super enjoyable record from beginning to end, and finding out that the impetus of it and what it means to the people making it only made it better for me. So yeah, what'd you think, Dan?
Man, this is an incredible record. I've listened to it a number of times already. It's super good driving music. And the reason why I say that, you mentioned that it's upbeat, but it's also dealing with a lot of issues. And I picked up on that right away. And so it's very inspiring. And I think that one of the things, having you clarify their backstory makes it just that much more powerful. Because to me, and this is going to sound maybe a little cheesy, but it's a great example of what the power of music can really do, and can actually like bring together people in otherwise very dark situations to do something uplifting, you know? And so, I mean, that's because I think everything that you mentioned about this record, I agree with. I was actually kind of in my head trying to figure out who the vocalist sounded like to me. And Mick Jones, I think, is right on the money. I would definitely say Devo. ELO, I can't really comment on because I'm not too familiar. But I also heard quite a bit of like sort of a hip hop thing kind of going on too. So I heard maybe a little bit of like, I don't know, something like early Beck kind of going on, and maybe something like, well, even like the Streets, you know, or something along those lines. Because there's that one track, I think it's track 2, where he's kind of doing like a rap sort of. And
he's at least just talking there.
Yeah, he's at least talking, and I would say it's somewhere between spoken word and rap, is kind of how I would describe it. And then, yeah, I definitely hear like elements of like the Godspeed, Godspeed and stuff like that kind of going on too, because there's almost like this magical sort of like sound kind of going on. And then that's kind of like, it's interesting because that's kind of like the first half of the record. And then like, yeah, like the last 3 songs basically sounds like a new wave record, which would be where the Devo thing kind of comes in. And it's just such an interesting example of how I think music can just bring people together under, you know, really, really like, really bad, you know, like negative circumstances, and create something positive out of it. And so, yeah, the fact that they have that backstory is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think so too. I will say also, there's a video for the song "The Next Fix," and it's really cool. Awesome. That's it. Just everyone should check out that video, because it's really also uplifting, and it represents the album really well. So I think you could watch that video and decide if that's what you want to listen to. So yeah,
I really enjoyed that last track, the Angel Dust, Eternal Peace.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, the entire record is incredible, but yeah, it's one of the things that I really liked about it is that it's kind of impossible to narrow down exactly what it is musically. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sounds to me like they're doing it for the love of it too, you know, the love of music. Yeah. And that's it's awesome. Yeah. It's great. For sure. Wow. Yeah, that's some heavy stuff right there. Yeah. That's definitely some heavy stuff for sure. So how long ago was it that you were in that area, Eric?
I would guess that would be 3 years ago, maybe.
Oh, really?
3 or 4. So yeah.
Fairly recently, huh?
Yeah.
Crazy. Other than that, did you like Canada?
Well, we were only there for one night, but yes, I loved it.
Oh,
I
okay.
absolutely
All
loved
right.
it. I wanted to
Okay.
stay longer. I want to go back sometime. So
I've always wanted to visit Canada.
everyone's
Always
cool,
wanted to go there.
like mellow. You know, I don't know.
That's
It was also during like, you know, things were kind of scary here in the States, and so it was like
sure.
to go there and just have everyone be chill and not so anxious and divisive. It felt really cool. It was like a reprieve from reality in a way. So it was nice.
Interesting. That's cool. All right, so my next pick that I have is a record from the hip-hop duo known as Eyedea and Abilities, which consisted, they're no longer around, but it consisted of the rapper Eyedea and DJ Abilities. And they're also known as like E&A. That was the title of their second record. This was their third and final record because unfortunately Eyedea passed away like a year after this record was released. And they were on Rhyme Sayers, which is Atmosphere's label. And this is a very different record compared to the first two Eyedea and Abilities records. For those of you who don't know anything about Eyedea and Abilities, I don't know much about DJ Abilities, but I know quite a bit about Eyedea. His birth name was Michael Larson, and he was just a really, really great freestyle rapper. He kind of made waves in the battle rap scene when he was like really young in like the late 90s. And eventually got a deal and released some independent hip hop. Legend has it that, I don't know how true this is, but legend has it that Puff Daddy at one time wanted to sign him and kind of make him Bad Boy's version of Eminem. I'm not really sure how true that really is, but I'm really glad that he didn't and went down the path that he did. Now, the first two Eyedea and Abilities records are pretty, I'm not going to say standard, but a lot more traditional hip hop than this one. With this record, well, when it first came out, it actually got a lot of hate from a lot of Eyedea and Abilities fans, and I think because they weren't expecting it at all. Because this record is kind of just a weird combination, and not weird in the sense that it's like particularly experimental or avant-garde. It's weird in the context of this is what Eyedea and Abilities left us with. Because it's the last thing they did, and it is just totally unexpected. It's like this sort of interesting combination of like, I don't know, grunge or punk or like noise rock mixed with traditional elements of hip hop, but also experimental elements of hip hop. And then also maybe some like industrial or even like maybe just little bits of, I don't know, something like even like dubstep kind of thrown in. I mean, this kind of came in like came out about that time when that stuff was kind of starting to become big. And Eyedea actually, I mean, he actually had like an indie rock band that he played with besides Eyedea and Abilities. So I mean, it wasn't really that surprising, but it was also completely surprising at the same time, if it makes any sense. I don't think this is a record for everybody. It's become my favorite record from Eyedea and Abilities. There are times where it comes really close to like almost something like rap metal, but not really. It not in a bad way by any means. But I really, really enjoy it. I think Eyedea's lyrics, pretty depressing. There's definitely a lot of pain expressed on this record. But there's also parts of it that I think are just really, really beautiful and really gorgeous. And I think it's awesome that he was able to, have put out a record like this, because I think, as a listener, I think that this kind of sounds like the record that he had been maybe waiting to make, as a fan. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of rambling on about it. I really think it's a great record. I would say if you're a fan of, sort of hip hop that kind of strays away from tradition, I think this is a record that you would really like. There's parts of it that almost sound like Nirvana or something like that through the filter of like, a hip hop group. So it's not done in the same way as like, say, something like the Beastie Boys. I would say it's definitely something a lot darker than that. Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think the song Smile, which there's a really great video for, I think that's possibly the best song from almost any artist that's ever been on Rhymesayers, in my opinion. I mean, I just think it's great. What did you think of this, Eric?
Yeah, I liked it quite a lot. I had never heard of this or anyone involved in it or anything else. So,
Sure.
But I really enjoyed it. I really liked I liked the music a lot. It was seemingly just programmed or sampled beats, but a lot of the guitar and actually the electric bass it seemed real, like they at least recorded and sampled real instruments, and it gets really punky, but it is also really rappy too. And I don't know if rappy is a word, it's kind of a goofy ass thing to say, but it is what it is. But it does a lot of other things too. It like experiments with sound, it experiments with styles, which I think you have to listen for, but it's definitely there. It definitely moves and changes. I like the rapping for the most part, like what they're talking about, the lyrics, I guess. I would say that the delivery personally reminded me a lot of Danny Brown, but this is also way
makes a lot of
before. So just, I don't know if one influenced the other or if they've never heard each other or whatever. I don't know, but the delivery of the vocals very much reminded me of Danny Brown on the rapping parts. And then in the choruses, sometimes they would sing, and that, along with a lot of the music, would remind me of TV on the radio, like quite a lot. And then also in some of the choruses, I heard a very heavy Radiohead influence. Like, I kind of think Tom York might have done a guest vocal on one of these songs, but maybe not. And then musically, I heard, and I know that I talk about Black Moth Super Rainbow like literally every episode, but some of the synths, especially the one on By the Throat, I think, or maybe Smile, one of the last two songs, sounds just like that. And a lot of the distorted beats and guitars and things remind me a lot of Ogre from Skinny Puppy. His solo records, especially Welt, reminded me a lot of that, which Welt is one of my favorite records ever too. So all the sounds were there, the production was there, the performance and delivery were there. So yeah, I liked it a lot, and I want to check out the other stuff too. I didn't get bored by this, it's only 29 minutes long, which is a good thing. And it moves and changes the whole time. So yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot.
I also think that this record, I think you made a really good point in talking about Danny Brown. I never really thought of it like that, but I think you're onto something there. And also, I've always said there's kind of been this sort of thing happening right now, especially in a lot of the modern, like more mainstream rappers, like sort of the more emo rap stuff, or at least that's what they're kind of calling sort of a lot of this auto-tuned sort of stuff that's going on today. A lot of them are kind of abandoning that and going more rock.
Oh, yeah.
And this came out in 2009 before that was anywhere near cool to do. And so I think this record it was ahead of its time.
I think so too. If you would have told me this came out now, I'd be like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Like,
yeah, like, but the fact it came out in 2009 on an independent rap label when all of the things that rap was kind of known for around that time had nothing to do with like rock, you know? I think this was a really brave record for a group like Eyedea and Abilities to put out around this time. Again, though, it makes sense when you actually like. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at the same time, and that's what I like about it. The record was totally a mindfuck for a lot of fans, I think, and I think it's a record that a lot of people are looking back on now and being like, "Oh wow, this was actually really like." This was a really, really great record, and this was really original at the time, and it really, I think it kind of maybe inadvertently influenced a lot of what's going on today in rap.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah.
So yeah,
Nice.
I would recommend it. And yeah, all right. So what else
All
you
right,
got from me?
so
Eric?
the next album is by an artist named Albert Eyler, and the record is called Prophecy. It was recorded in 1964 and released in 1965. Albert Eyler is a avant-garde saxophonist, pretty wild saxophonist, I would say. Influenced by, Ornette Coleman and Charlie Parker, and other people too, but he also turned around and ended up being a big influence on other people. Yeah, I'm not a big jazz head. Like, I like jazz and I listen to it, and when I find someone I like, I listen to them, and then I listen to things that are like them, and it kind of just keeps moving that way. So I got into this, through listening to Ornette Coleman. And, yeah, so this is some pretty wild stuff. And the record I really liked is actually a live album. Let's see what it's called. Sorry. Live in Greenwich Village. The Complete Impulse recordings. I absolutely adored it. The first time I heard it, like, it took my breath away. But it's 2 hours and 14 minutes long. So I didn't really want to stick Dan with having to listen to that. So I picked this other record, Prophecy, because it had a similar tone to it. It was live, and it moved a lot. And so I picked this. It's pretty wild stuff. The drummer is Sonny Murray. I don't think he's very interested in keeping time. I don't think he sees that as the drummer's job. And the bass is Gary Peacock. Also not that interested in necessarily always playing what's supposed to be being played, but every time Albert Eyler hits, the bass is right there, right along with him. And so, I used to think that avant-garde meant just weird for weird's sake, and I sort of now have started to think that more it's like it's more like a defiance of traditional norms. It's like, in order for something to be avant-garde, someone has to understand what they're rebelling against. And I think that comes through on this. Okay, so that's the first part of my review. It's awesome. If you like wild saxophone, go for it. The second part of this is I listened to it at home through my computer. And I was just listening to it. I was like, yeah, this is good. I'm going to pick this and listen to it, and I think it'll be cool. I think Dan will like it because it's, kind of John Zornish or whatever. But then I listened to it again in my car, and I was listening to it really loud, which most people would probably not understand how that was possible. But I did. I had it cranked. And I kept hearing the sound in it. I kept hearing this. kind of stuff, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on? Like, it scared me. Like, I could not understand what was happening. And so I love anything that just actually scares me when it comes to music, because it's rare. Like, when I don't understand what I'm hearing, I don't understand how it was done or made, or what the intention is, or even the foundation of what's happening. And it's so uncanny. Like, it's so strange that you don't understand what's happening. So, I looked it up, and Sonny Murray, the drummer, as he's playing, apparently moans and does these just weird vocal things. And I don't know if Dan, I'll ask you this when I actually get done blabbing about this, but it wasn't something I heard the first time around. I didn't notice it because the saxophone is so insane and intense and loud and abrasive, and like there's nothing you can even pay attention to, which actually makes this a really good record for kind of deep contemplation, or like just sort of deep thinking, because it's almost like meditative, because you can't concentrate on anything but this outrageous saxophone. But anyway, if you turn it up really loud, you'll hear this moaning in the background, and I've not heard anything like it. It really, it transcended the record for me. Like I was somewhere else. And the first live thing I heard, the Greenwich Village one, also did the same thing, but this was like just an added element of insanity, sort of. And I don't mean to be dismissive by saying insanity. I mean, like, I truly couldn't understand it, but it put it squarely in this realm of things that I listen to that I'm actually scared of. Like, I remember the first time I heard Crash Worship, Espontaneo. It's sort of live, and it starts with a live kind of drumming thing, and then all of a sudden there's like shotgun sounds and like bombs, and it's like, what the hell is going on? It was so scary. Or if you listen to like Diamanda Gallus, like you listen to this stuff and you're just like, what? How? This is terrifying. So, with all that being said, this record really does move, and it goes places. And if you can get past how crazy it sounds, and you like that sort of thing, I think you'll really enjoy it. So, sorry for that crazy long review, but I had to talk about this moaning in the background. So, what do you think, Dan?
No, that's perfectly fine. I really enjoyed it for sure. It's I didn't hear the moaning. Like, I'm kind of disappointed. Yeah. I was also listening to it in my van, and it was really funny because I was at a stoplight when I was delivering food, and I had the window rolled down because it was a nice day, and I felt so bad for both the car in front of me and the car to the left of me, because all they could hear coming from my van was I never heard that. I don't. Do you have to like turn it up to a certain?
You have to turn it
level?
up, but you also have to be listening for it.
Okay, and no, that's amazing. I did not know that. Free jazz is something that I like in. I like it when I like it, meaning basically like I really have to sort of be in the mood for it, sort of thing. But I mean, at the same time, I think it's great. Like I love the Art of Improvisers by Ornette Coleman. You mentioned Ornette Coleman as kind of like a reference point, and that's totally what this reminded me of. It also kind of reminded me of the record at times, Oh Yeah, by Charles Mingus, a little bit. This stuff is always really fun to listen to because it reminds me that music doesn't always have to be like this super structured like sort of thing all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that you can actually do something that is putting a lot of thought into it with sound. And I struggle with that because I'm really kind of, sometimes I admit I get stuck in that sort of like way of thinking, well, this has to have a structure to it. You know what I mean? Like, and I forget how amazing improv can kind of be. And I don't think this was all improv.
No, because there are two variations on the same piece, and they're actually really similar.
Exactly. They're really similar, but I think free jazz also did experiment with that a little bit with the various, there's like it also is just a reminder too that things don't always have to be the same every time either. There can be like change. And I think that's awesome. That's one of the things that I've always really appreciated, actually, just about jazz in general. Not even just like free jazz or fusion jazz and things like that. Just jazz in general. Even like the bebop guys used to kind of abide by that philosophy,
For sure.
And so it's really, really interesting to listen to. But yeah, I have to really be in a certain mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you were saying, it's really good like thinking music. And so I always picture, like this being in the background at some crazy party that I'm at where nobody knows what's going on. Like if I was in an episode of Twin Peaks, you know what I mean? This would be the perfect background music to something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it blows my mind that music like this, it's kind of been made all along, and people forget that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, especially now where everything is so calculated, like in at least the American music machine.
Right.
And it's crazy to think that this type of music, jazz, is like the only style of music that you can really call an American style of music.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And yet the American music machine is about so much structure and so much, it's crazy. Like, how experimental that stuff really gets.
Oh, for sure.
Like just the fact that they would even leave the parts in where he's moaning is mind-blowing.
Well, I think they just were miking the drums, and it just picked them up. That's why it's so quiet and weird. It's just like,
and he was probably getting into it in some way, and that's probably exactly what it was.
Yeah, the only time it stops is when it goes into like a bass solo, like when the drums stop, essentially.
You talked about John Zorn. Definitely hear that, but what I also hear, honestly, is like, this is basically what Dillinger Escape Plan did with metal.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Or like, even, I don't know, something like, have you ever heard like the Flying Lutenbachers?
No, I haven't.
Like, stuff like that, where it's basically like what those bands do, what those bands did, were basically like this with distorted guitars.
Cool.
I mean, that's kind of the way that I definitely think that this kind of stuff had way more of an influence on heavy music than a lot of people think or even know about.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine anything in 1964 being much heavier than this.
No, absolutely
you know what I mean?
not.
Like, if you think about the Beatles being on Ed Sullivan or something compared to this, like, it's not even, like, whichever one you want to choose isn't even music compared to the other one. It can go either way on that, but yeah, they're just so different that they barely resemble each other as being the same thing, and that's pretty cool. That I think people think shit gets weird now. Like it can't be any weirder than it is now. It's like, I don't know. You guys if you're out there trying to be weird right now, you got some work to do. Like, and honestly, if you're trying to be weird, you're probably not going to pull it off. You know what I mean? Like, true. you have to be committed to your weirdness. You have to lean into the thing that you probably hate most about yourself. Like this Sonny Murray guy, I'm sure that he would rather not moan the entire time he plays the drums. And he
Yeah.
probably wasn't stoked that it showed up on the recording. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, yeah, if you're out there trying to be weird, I don't know. It's probably not going to work. Like, find the thing that truly makes you you to the point that you don't even like it, and that's probably where you'll find the thing that makes you really different. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like that whole like everyone's their worst critic sort of aspect.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
just use it, lean into it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like be the things you
Yeah,
hate.
yeah, totally. Shine a light on the things you try to hide from people, and that will be your legacy. You know.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
anyway,
Oh man. So the local
yeah,
review
it's
this
called
week
S
is really
L-
really
yeah,
awesome.
SLWccWatt, which I assume must have something to do with maybe sending files back and forth, you know, on email or something, you know?
Yeah, I was kind of
Yeah,
wondering about
that's
that
what I
too,
would
but I think
assume.
you're right. That must be what it is.
Because
Yeah.
this is Sam Lockward of Iowa City and Mike Watt of I don't know where. I actually don't know.
I think he lives in I think it's like San Pedro,
Oh,
California,
okay.
or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Formerly of
Yeah,
the Minutemen.
yeah.
I think that's what everyone knows.
Yeah, and what? Fire Hose, was that his other group?
Yeah, he was Firehouse.
House. Yeah, Fire Fire Hose is a different
remember-
thing. Yeah.
I used to be confused by that. I was like, Mike Watt was in a clan
Yeah,
band?
no, not quite.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sam is he's a classic dude. I mean, he's been making music around here for a long time. Well before I knew him at all. Probably over 20 years in this area. So, and he's very extremely prolific. He's had a few different groups. I'll just name a couple: the Eggnogs, Kick-Ass Tarantulas, Miracles of God, Cop Bar. But I think a lot of his stuff has mostly just been released as Sam Lockward or Sam Lockward and the fill in the blank band name, Garbage Boys, numerous other bands, but mostly as Sam Lockward. Yeah, it's so his output is so much that I've had a hard time getting into his catalog because it's just intimidating. I don't have a better word for it. But I have listened to a few things, and I like everything I've heard. I really like Sam's voice, and I like his sensibilities, especially his pop sensibilities. His voice is really cool. Like, I hear him talk and I know that voice. And then when he starts singing, it's like, wow, where did that voice come from? And, I hear a lot of different people in there. And so, you know, I always kind of hate it when people tell me who I sound like or whatever. But yeah, sometimes I'll hear a little bit of, Magnetic Fields, vocally, a little bit of, I don't know, maybe Bright Eyes or something like that. But mostly it just sounds like Sam, which is pretty cool because to have a voice that you can tell who it is right away and know that it's not someone else, pretty amazing this day and age. The record's pretty long. I think there's 30 tracks, but about half of them are like 15 to 25 second kind of musical interludes with Mike Watt doing sort of like beat poetry over it maybe, or like a spoken word thing. And that's really cool. Like I said, all the songs are really cool, but I really like Sam's more poppy stuff. Like when I hear the synth come in and some drums that aren't even trying to sound real, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good one, you know? And so, and I really like the sound of those. Mike Watt's bass sounds really nice on all of this. I don't have to talk that much about Mike Watt's bass playing. I mean, people have heard it But I do think he's very intuitive and exciting. I would guess that these songs were practiced a couple times and then just recorded. Like, I don't think he spent a lot of time, trying to nail every nuance and everything with these bass parts, or not nuance, but just the timing and things like that. Not that it's off, but it's loose and it moves, and it makes all of the songs move too. And so, yeah, I don't know how Sam knows Mike, but that's super cool. Sam seems to know a lot of people that, are bigger than the other people around here in Iowa City, that's for sure. So, yeah, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I liked, like I said, all those interludes. There's a lot of noise. There's some heavier parts. There's some goofy parts. There's some funky parts. But for me, the poppy stuff really did it for me. So what'd you think, Dan?
Yeah, I thought this was really great. I mean, I kind of know Sam a little bit. I'm not sure if he really remembers me or not, but I've definitely introduced myself to him a couple of times. Yeah, he's very prolific, as you said, with both his music and his art. I, as well, have not delved into all of his music, as that would be quite a daunting task. But I bet in a very good way, because I'm sure it would be very rewarding. And I've definitely heard a couple of his albums. He has a song, we mentioned this before we started recording, Eric. He has this song from a few years ago called All Bad Things, which I think is just a really fantastic song.
I like that one.
And you're right on the money with the poppy stuff. One of the things that I've always liked about Sam's stuff that I've heard is he's always kind of seemed to like have this like almost happy poppy sound, but then like the lyrics are just really, really like there's like a darkness to these lyrics. And like I feel like with this one in particular, I think they're touching on a lot of like modern issues that are kind of going on. And I think the song on this one that just blows my mind and just really like exemplifies that better than I would have a hard time thinking of a better example is that song Darkness Reigns. It's just so awesome. It almost has this like the the verse kind of has this almost like, I don't really know how to like explain it. It's kind of like almost like a, I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but bossa nova, or almost like this Beach Boys-ish kind of thing kind of going on or something. And then the chorus just like kind of gets this like heavy like melodic thing kind of going on suddenly, and then Sam like sings the chorus. It's like I think it's Darkness Reigns, everyone will feel the pain, in this like really just almost hilarious high-pitched voice, like that almost sounds like Ween, like, or something like that. But in that sense, I would say that a lot of this album, a lot of that stuff that is coming from Sam's end, kind of almost reminds me of They Might Be Giants in that way, where they just, it's almost like this sort of like, happy sort of sounding song, but it's also dark as hell at the same time, and that's the kind of stuff I like anyway, and then, the stuff where Mike Watt is doing like these spoken word sort of almost like poetry readings or whatever, I think those are really cool. I think the two styles mesh really well. I also really like the song Fuck Your Guitar.
Yeah, so did I.
I thought that was really good. And yeah, I mean, if you're into like, parts of it also reminded me a lot of like, I don't know, R. Stevie Moore.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. Maybe a little bit of Daniel Johnston. But I mean, Samlock Ward, he just has his own thing going on and always has.
Yes.
And so, yeah, this is really, really good stuff. If you're a fan of like, and also parts of it really reminded me of the Minutemen. Actually,
Sure.
There's like some of the more upbeat, faster, like. I can't think of any of the songs in particular. Oh, I think No Facts was one of them. I mean, the bass line that Watt was playing was like 100% just straight up like, something that D. Boone could play along with. It totally sounded like old Minutemen. I mean, yeah, I thought this was really, really good stuff. And if you're a fan of just kind of like weird, good stuff and, like humor and sort of like that dark thing that I kind of mentioned. Sorry, I know, again, that's kind of a lame sort of description, but I'm lacking a better description there. I would definitely listen to this stuff. Give it a chance. It's at SLWccWatt.bandcamp.com. And I think it's going to be released on vinyl. The name of the record is actually Real Manic Time.
I forgot to mention that.
So, yeah, SLWCC. Yeah, I actually forgot about it until I just pulled it up. SLWccWatt is actually the name of the group, I guess. Really, really good stuff. And also, check out SamuelLockward.bandcamp.com for all of the other stuff. And also, if you're into mini comics and you're into independent comics, he does some really great comics.
Yeah.
So definitely check out Samuel Lockward and really, really good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good
Nice.
stuff. Good stuff. What did I say I was going to call this episode again?
I think you were going to call it Good Stuff after the B-52's record.
There you go. I thought maybe I should call it Cosmic Thing.
Oh, yeah. I actually really like that record.
Oh, me too. I love the B-52s.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I mean, I like the first record, the one with Rock Lobster. Cosmic Thing is really good. I like, I like good stuff. What'd you think of Funplex?
No, I never did. I didn't really listen to the Good Stuff one either, to be honest. I kind of stopped with Cosmic Thing, so.
Well, that was kind of
It's
their
good
peak,
though.
I think.
Yeah. Everyone needs to hear Rome
Sure.
at least once a day, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I just listen to Cosmic Thing every day. Like on the way to work, I listen to Deadbeat Club,
Yeah.
and then Channel Z to get kind of wound up, Yeah.
Yeah, everything. I mean, yeah, all that stuff.
Not Love Shack though. I personally think Love Shack should be banned.
That is a canceled
I don't
song.
think anyone ever we can all just recall the entire song in our heads anytime we want, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
So I think we should probably ban it.
So you're all into cancel cultures against the
Just
B-52s.
overplayed songs. That's it. Yeah.
Overplayed songs. Yeah. That's
There
the
should be
real
an
cancel
ordinance.
culture. Damn it.
It's like
Yeah.
don't stop
They should
believing.
hire us. Yes, I would almost say almost any Journey song. Honestly,
You know what's weird though? Every time
Boston
Bohemian
too.
Rhapsody comes on the radio, I listen to it. Every time.
Oh, Bohemian. Yeah,
and I
but
sing it
that's-
every single goddamn time.
To me, that is two things. To me, that is excusable because that's still a great song that never gets old. But also, it's weird because you've never seen Wayne's World.
I have seen Wayne's World like once or twice.
No, I'm sorry. That doesn't count as seeing it, Eric. I mean, you have to watch it. You had to have watched it at least 10 years straight for me to count it
10
as
years
like
straight
you've
every
seen
day.
it.
As soon as you get done listening
Yes.
to Cosmic Thing, you have to put on Wayne's World.
Yeah, exactly. Cosmic World and Wayne's
Cosmic
World.
World and
That's
Wayne's
your homework.
Thing.
That's your homework next week, ladies and gentlemen.
No, don't do it to him.
You don't want me to assign the listeners stuff to do?
I mean, maybe
Come on, it'd be
that's
fun.
kind of what we do all the time, right? That's like why we review the records.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of it as like, okay, they're not going to interact with us, so let's interact with them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, your homework assignment is to make it through the first 2 songs on the Albert Ayler record. Yeah.
There you go.
Good luck.
And try and listen for the moaning while you're at it.
That moaning is it's gonna creep y'all out.
Yes, that sounds really amazing. Well, yes. Erik, for people to contact us and talk to us about anything about this show, they can still catch us on the Instagram and Facebook, can't they?
For sure.
And so, your what's yours again, Erik?
Erik_Erik_Whitaker.
Okay, and mine is Dan_the_ruler.
Or Accelerativ Thrust.
Or Accelerativ Thrust. Send us all messages, man. Let us know what we're doing right, but more importantly, let us know what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, I mean, get it off your chest. I mean, you spend a lot of time with us, apparently. Something about us has to piss you off. I mean, come on.
Yes. So
I mean, send your suggestions, too.
Yeah, suggestions. Yeah, if you want us to like review something.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Local band or just not even a local band, just if you want us to if you have a record that you think neither of us have heard, that would be amazing.
That would be cool. I mean, unless
we could find a record
and honestly, I'm going to decide that shit in like the first 45 seconds. So it's got to have a good opener or a disclaimer that says the opener kind of sucks, but the rest of it's rad. Like then, yeah. But seriously, it's got to hit me quick.
That's one of the things that I always liked about Big Black when they put out the EP after Atomizer. They were like, "Don't get your hopes up. This piece of shit is no Atomizer." Like they actually put a sticker that said that.
Nice.
And they were actually serious. Yeah. Like Albini was like, "Yeah, we just didn't want to like screw over our listeners."
People probably liked it better than they would have, you know, because their expectations were so low.
Exactly.
They're like, "Oh, this isn't that big of a piece of shit," which is what you want people to say about your releases, you know.
That's exactly it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. And you guys all have a good night, day, week, whatever it is when you're listening to this. Thanks for all the support. We know that there's a lot of you out there listening, and that means a lot to us.
Yeah.
So,
sweet.
You guys have a good day.
Right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Are you guys